Okay, so today we're talking about basically metabolic math, like figuring out what it is you need to actually eat or how you need to eat in order to accomplish recompositioning of your body. So a lot of times, people are always focused on the scale. They just want the number to go down. And I am assuming that that's part of why people are joining ferals is that they want to either lose weight or recomp their body. They want to build muscle, lose fat. So you want to come out with a whole different sort of look on your body because of the switch up from, with more muscle, less fat. Okay, well, that's more people in here. Okay, so sorry, my computer is really slow. Okay. So it's not letting me switch screens very quickly. All right, so nutrition considerations for fat loss. First of all, it's not a quick fix. It's not a quick fix. But what we want to do or what other things we'll do as we're losing fat is we're going to impact our glucose and insulin and our A1C. Those are all markers that not all of them are tested actually on standard lab work. But what happens is it's going to improve those numbers so that you can get into stored body fat and then be able to recomposition your body by building more muscle, losing fat. This allows for, overall weight loss over time. And we need to start by getting to know your macros. So in the beginning or the like nutrition 101 type class, we talk about our macronutrients. And we talked about the proteins, fats, and carbs and why they're super important for us. But now we're going to get into more of the kind of the math of it, like I said, the metabolic math. So what we need to understand first is that our macronutrients, which are proteins, fats, and carbs, alcohol is considered a macronutrient as well, but we don't want to count that on a regular basis because it actually takes away from being able to get into fat stores. So when we talk about the different macros and how many calories they have or how many calories our foods have, that's just a measure of energy. Okay, that's just a unit of measurement that tells us how much energy that food provides your body. Okay, so you have to think of it that way. Now, if you just think about it just on really basic terms, if you were to eat like a handful of carrots for breakfast and nothing else, you would probably be pretty hungry pretty quickly. Versus if you ate something that was more calorie dense, like, I don't know, a protein shake with some, maybe some peanut butter blended into it and I don't know, a banana. Okay, that because that protein shake had more calories in it, you would probably have that last longer. You would not be as hungry as fast. So it's just the density of calories. And this is where people are in the situation where they're looking to make some changes with their nutrition and their body is because we've kind of messed up what we're doing with our calories. And often, to be honest, when I'm working with people, people aren't eating enough a lot of times. And then you add if you have a thyroid condition, if you're perimenopausal, which starts early. I mean, I've seen 20 somethings with really kind of messed up hormones. So you don't have to be 50, 60 years old to be dealing with hormone components of messing with your metabolism. So what we need to do is to eat and fuel ourselves properly in order to we need to balance out our energy the calories we take in, the energy we take in, and the calories we take out or burn through daily activities and just surviving needs to balance out. And most times people are doing, I shouldn't say most times, what I'm seeing is a lot of people are doing too little energy, too little of calories, or the balance of those types of calories. So that's why we're talking about this here. Now, I just want to say too, I am not a calories in, calories out type nutritionist. So and maybe I should introduce myself first. I can't remember. I think there's a couple names that might be familiar. And I think this will go out to other people as well. So I'm going to introduce myself in a second here, but I'm not really that calories in, calories out nutritionist because the types of calories matter, which is what we're going to be talking about today. If you ate, 1,500 calories of, nice quality proteins, good healthy carbohydrates, and some good balanced fats, like good quality fats, you could lose weight on that. If you are eating 1,500 calories of ultra processed foods, chips, crackers, candy, alcohol, that kind of stuff, you can gain weight on that. Okay, so the quality of the calories matter because of some of the other factors that get into play there, and I'm not going to probably go into it here today. So back to introducing myself a little bit. My name is Tiffany. I'm a board certified and licensed nutritionist, and I came into doing what I do now, educating people like you, working with people one-on-one and in groups and programs because I struggled with energy issues, depression issues, just struggled for years and years and years to no avail, never getting support. At 20 something years old, I kept being told that I was just getting older and this is what was supposed to happen. This is your new normal. And that wasn't it at all. It turned out it was a kind of an undiagnosed thyroid condition. And eventually I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer and it had spread to the lymph nodes. And it's been an ongoing thing since then. And so I knew that I needed to do something different with my diet. And when I talked to my providers about what I could do with my nutrition, they told me that food didn't affect how I felt. And so just, eat a basically healthy diet, follow the government recommendations. That's all you need to do. And that's when I knew I needed to do something different because biochemistry of nutrients is a big factor in how this helps and support our body. Okay, so that's what I had to do to change my life, and it did change my life. I'm not being dramatic, but it absolutely was a big factor in helping me improve my health. So that's why I do this to help other people as well. Okay. Okay, so that's where we needed to go for myself, and this is how I help other people in similar situations get better using their nutrition. Okay, so back to the macros. We're going to look at what we can do with our proteins, our fats, and our carbohydrates, and how we can best utilize this to lose the fat and gain the muscle. You're probably going to be, maybe someone can answer me on this. Do you use I think like an InBody. Is it InBody at Farrell's? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. So you'll be able to see, and I don't know how often you do it, if you do it once a week or whatever it is, but you'll see your lean body mass increase, which is golden. That's what you want. And then eventually, even if it's not right away, but eventually after a few weeks settling in, the fat will start to be, let go, which is the goal, right? So I haven't talked to one person yet who, no matter what, just wants to weigh X many pounds. They want to actually see the muscle go up and the fat go down. So that doesn't always mean that you'll get to that magic weight that you may have in your head from high school or whatever. Seems like people always have like a number in their head, but it's something to shoot for when we determine how much protein and things to eat. So that's where we'll start. Okay, so like I said, if you have a piece of paper, pen or pencil or whatever, that would be helpful. Otherwise, I'm guessing you'll get this sent to you as well so you can follow along later. All right, so what you need to think about is your ideal lean body weight. So what I tell people what that is where is the weight that you've been at before that you feel awesome at? You have lots of energy. You don't have to bust your butt at the gym to keep yourself at that weight, and you don't have to starve yourself to stay at that weight. So that's not very scientific, but it's subjective, and I want you to think about what that is. So I have worked with some people who don't know what that is. They've never been at their weight. They've always been, significantly overweight. So then what I like to do there is talk about, okay, how tall are you? And, where are you at now? And I don't know, sometimes I've had women be at, over 200 pounds and they'll say, I think I'd feel good at 175 or something like that, which might be far above what someone's ideal might be or what they think it might be, but that's a place to start. That's a place to start, okay? So think about what that body weight is for you. And then for women, actually men too, when I had made this, I made it for a group of women. So you want to have a minimum of 100 grams of protein per day. So studies show that skeletal muscle will be maintained at that threshold, and that's because of there's one or two specific amino acids that make up proteins that will start to keep synthesizing that muscle that you have and keep that going at that threshold of 100 grams per day. Now, what I always tell people to do is to start with where you're at and make it better. So let's say you are currently, and I did this for myself because I thought, oh, I'm eating for sure over 100 grams protein. And then I tracked for a couple of days, and I was surprised to see, it was 3 days actually, that my average for those 3 days was like 65 or something grams protein. It was something in that range. So far below that 100 grams, right? So what I did, and this is what I recommend other people do as well, is like look at where you're at and then just put it in your head that you're going to start adding another 10 grams, maybe another 20 grams per day. Like just do it in 10-gram increments. So say you're at 60 grams protein, try to shoot for the next week for 70 grams of protein. And then after that, try to get 80 grams of protein and just slowly build up to it so you can kind of let your body work through it and adjust to it. Now, this is a side note. If you struggle with poor gut health and you don't break proteins down because your stomach acid is low, which actually more people have low stomach acid than too much, especially if you have a thyroid condition, you might struggle with that and you might need to get some kind of digestive enzyme that has hydrochloric acid in it, as long as you are not on something that's prescribed for reducing acid or dealing with a ulcer or something like that. You do not want to use them in those situations. But if you're trying to ramp up your protein, you might feel a lot better. So also, if you're that person that when they eat a higher protein meal, if it just feels like it sits in the gut, like it just sits there for far too long, that could be a sign that you have too low of stomach acid, because acid, the HCl in your stomach, will help break down those proteins. Proteins are big molecules. All right, so the ideal thing to do, so you start with that 100 grams minimum, and then the ideal is to go up to your lean body weight. Whatever that is in pounds is how many grams you should have. So let's say your ideal lean body weight is 150 pounds. You should shoot for 150 grams protein. But I always say we don't have to work in exacts, and it's progress over perfection. And what we also need to understand is that days are going to vary. Like I just looked at my tracking today, and I had way more protein than I normally have for whatever reason. And that's okay, because tomorrow I might not have as much or feel like as much. Got to listen to your body. Some days are different because you're traveling or maybe you don't feel well. Whatever it is, it's going to fluctuate. So it's just something to shoot for. So it doesn't have to be this hard and fast rule that if you don't make your 150 grams of protein because your ideally body was at 150, that you're messing up. But with your workouts at Farrell's, you're really going to want to prioritize protein. So that's why I put at the top of this, you want to start with protein. Okay, start with protein. Meaning when you sit down and make up your meals or think about meal prep or whatever it is that you do, I want you to make sure you prioritize what you're going to have for your protein. And then I also ask you to eat your protein first because it's filling, it stays with you longer, it helps balance out your blood sugar. That's what you need to do. So ideally, you can eat all kinds of protein, whether it's animal or plant proteins, but ideally out of, say, all the protein of your day, ideally 80% of that would come from an animal source, a good quality animal source, because it's just better assimilated or more easily assimilated, especially if you have some metabolic conditions, like high blood pressure or triglycerides or, blood sugar issues, anything like that. So that's something you might want to consider, kind of working through and thinking about with regard to the kind of protein that you're choosing. All right, so then let's just round it out. If you're at that 150 grams, just try to divide them between breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Try to eat 3 meals a day. If you need a snack to get your protein or just because you're hungry, that's totally fine. But the goal would be to get a minimum of 30 grams at each meal, up to 50 grams per meal. Is there any questions on that? Okay, so with this, that protein that you're consuming and then the resistance training that you would be doing is actually going to be protective against fat accumulation. Okay, so I can't remember what the statistic is, but it's not maintaining your muscle is almost as bad or as bad as the fat accumulation that happens as people age. It's as detrimental to your health as being obese. Okay, so we got to prioritize that protein and muscle and the resistance training. Okay, so then we need to add carbohydrates because we're talking about the 3 food groups here: proteins, fats, and carbs. Okay, so carbohydrates also have 4 calories per gram. And ideally, you would eat your carbs and your proteins in a 1-to-1 ratio. So using that 150 grams for the protein intake, you then would eat carbs at 150 grams. Now, it says in little parentheses, this is for metabolically stable individuals. So that would be, what that means is like people who don't have some of those metabolic conditions we just talked about. So high triglycerides, elevated blood pressure, blood sugars that are imbalanced, things like that. If you are any of those things, you might want to play with this. So you could go maybe starting with 90 or 100 grams of carbohydrates to the 150 grams of the protein, and then just build from there. So ideally, you would want to choose veggie carbs. So veggie carbs are going to have lots of micronutrients. That's the vitamins and minerals. They're going to have lots of those. They're going to create some fiber for you. And they're going to be very low in carbohydrates, but also fuel the body that you need to get through your workouts. On your higher energy workouts or more intense workouts, you might need to add some moderate starchy carbs. And if you are fairly metabolically stable, you could add these more frequently. As far as your workouts, can anybody speak to what types of or how many days you're working out and how long you're working out? Can someone just describe it for me a little bit?
So for the 10-week session, it's we do kickboxing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for 45 minutes. And then on Tuesdays is lower body day for 45 minutes. So that's lower body strength training. And Thursdays is upper body strength training for 45 minutes. And then the Saturday classes are the forms class, which is a kickboxing class, is 45 minutes long, or they have strength training ones for an hour.
Okay. And then you just pick one of those on Saturdays, right? Or both, or what do you do there?
Well, well, sometimes I do both.
Okay, so you have
We
an option
can, yeah.
to do.
Yep. Yep,
Okay.
you have an option to do more than one.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
for sure it's
because
5 days a week.
the kickboxing class is like a forms class, so the actual kickboxing cardio is a little bit shorter.
Okay, got it. And then so it's for sure it's 5 days a week. That's pretty intense, correct?
Correct.
Okay, got it. All right, so that's where I don't know, so many people have been intermittent fasting, keto, low carb or super low carb or even carnivore. Um And I think I'm seeing issues with that with people. And I don't think being low carb or even carnivore, for a little while I think that's fine. It's therapeutic. There's studies showing for keto that it's therapeutic for certain conditions. That was actually the only treatment for diabetes many years ago. So there is something to it. However, so many people have done it too extreme for too long. And I think that is setting us up for other issues. I feel like it's down regulating our metabolism. People are under eating. And I kind of discovered this about myself recently too with regard to carbohydrates. I've noticed when I've tracked, and I don't track every day because it drives me crazy. But I've noticed when I do, I eat really low carb. I'm not even trying to. It's just kind of what I'm used to now. And I have no thyroid glands, so that's not always good for thyroid. But too much carbohydrate is not good for thyroid either. So the point is if your carbohydrates are from primarily whole foods, if you can identify it, what it is, if it looks like an apple, if it looks like broccoli, if it looks like a potato, it's going to be okay. Versus if it looks, it's got artificial colors in it. It's like fruit snack that is supposedly different fruit flavors, but they're just colors and it's all fructose and sugars and whatever. Those are not the kind of carbohydrates that are going to contribute to for sure your health, but certainly not your workouts either. It's not going to fuel your body properly. So, the recommendation is to kind of keep those meals, again, looking at a 3 meals a day type of thing, about 30 grams per meal. Like I said, listen to your body on those more intense workout days, and that might look different for everybody. Like kickboxing, I haven't done kickboxing for a long time, but that is no joke. Like that is all of those workouts are going to be intense, right? So you need to fuel your body, not to mention just going through your day, the stress of your day and anything else you have to keep doing. So just when you eat carbohydrates, primarily try to make them, veggie carbs. Add, probably at least one starchy carb a day, maybe at dinner time or something. And this is a little side note. If you do kind of struggle with a little bit of gut health issues, adding some starchy carbs, like tonight, for example, we put some Yukon Gold potatoes in the air fryer, just put into little chunks. And I'm not sure if there's leftovers or not, but if there were, if you put them in your little container, put them in your fridge, that cooling process of the starchier carbs. So this could be potatoes, it could be rice, it could be quinoa, could be carrots, whatever you like. That cooling process creates something called resistant starch. And then when you eat it the next day, even if you heat it up again, is providing this resistant starch to your gut, which provides good groundwork for creating the good gut bugs, a good microbiome, but also it helps to regulate your blood sugar. And also it helps with your natural GLP-1 process that, you hear about all the peptide shots and stuff lately. It kind of helps with that naturally. So does protein, by the way. So I would say if you do that, make sure you have a little something for the next day that has cooled and created that starch. Does everybody understand what I mean by that and get what I'm saying? If you have questions okay, thank you. Yeah, just let me know if you have questions about that. Because I think people always feel like, oh my gosh, I can't eat potatoes, they're so bad for me. And so I just want to tell you the good stuff about some starchy carbohydrates. Okay, so we're going to prioritize protein. You're going to get at least 100 grams a day, and then work up to your ideal. So work up to the 100 if you're not there, and then work up to your ideal. So again, if your ideal lean body weight is 150 pounds, shoot for 150 grams of protein. Okay, even 130 to 150 would be awesome. Okay, and then carbohydrates you're going to add next. And honestly, eat like how, I mean, this used to be considered sort of like being picky, where people would eat on their plate one thing at a time and not mix, take bites across the types of foods. Probably, if you can, you should prioritize eating that protein, then eat your carbohydrates. And oftentimes the fat will come with the meat or maybe what you cook things in. So that'll just be a part of it. But you want to try to get your carbohydrates in too, but you want to fill up on that protein first. Okay, then we're going to round it out with a fat. Fat has more than double the amount of energy per gram. So protein and carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram, and fat has 9 calories per gram. Okay, so there's a lot more density in it as far as the energy / calories that it's providing to your body. They're important though. They help fuel for muscle. They provide energy for your brain. They help make hormones. They do so much, and we have to make sure that we get good quality ones. This is kind of a bugger because um, the labeling laws for things like olive oil, not all oils are considered equal, especially like the olive oils for some reason. They can, by law, cut olive oil. It'll be labeled olive oil, but by law, they can cut it up to a certain percentage with other cheap oils like soybean oil or something like that and call it olive oil, but you have no idea. So I recommend if you do oils like that, you go to like a oil specialty store. There is a difference. So things like butter, coconut oil, olive oil, avocados, or avocado oil. I do use avocado oil for cooking in higher heat. Making homemade salad dressings, ghee. I mean, the salad dressing thing, everybody is like, oh, I don't know how to do that kind of stuff, but there's some really good basic ones that you can make up really quickly, and you can just make them in, servings for that meal or maybe a leftover even, but you don't have to make these big batches of things that, might go bad or whatever. But that would be the best way to get those fats in. So basically, you want to round out that protein and that carbohydrate with each of your meals with some kind of fat. So maybe you cook in butter, maybe you add a little bit of butter to your baked potato or whatever it is. There you go. That's your fat. So like tonight I made steak tips, and then I sauteed green beans. Both of those things, the steak tips were cooked in a stovetop on avocado oil. And then the green beans I sauteed, pan fried in, I didn't fry them. I just sauteed them in butter and then seasoned them. And then the potatoes were in the air fryer. And my daughter made those. I don't know if there's any fat on those. So maybe in total, I would have eaten, I can't imagine I had 2 tablespoons of fat myself because there's, leftovers. My dog may have gotten some of them. But so you're not eating that much fat. It's just part of the cooking and whatever. So that is going to help your satiety along with that protein. It's going to help fuel your body. It's going to give you better brain energy. If you have a lot of mental fatigue, a lot of times that's when people are eating super low carbohydrates or very little fat or not good quality fat. Make sure you're not eating things like, the label will say partially hydrogenated. Those actually damage your cell lining, the linings around each cell. It causes inflammation, which may or may not be the reason, you're taking part in these programs. If you're feeling, with a variety of symptoms, things that we already kind of talked about, it could be inflammation and really bad fats on a regular basis from processed foods. that's contributing to it. If you get rid of some of that stuff, you probably will look and feel different just from that. And that's with any ultra processed foods, but those trans fats and those processed fats like corn oil, vegetable oil, even canola, the other seed oils, things like that, those cause a lot of damage. They're oxidative damage that can cause to your body, and you can look and feel different when you change that up. Okay, so let's customize your macro goals. So let's do our metabolic math, okay? So you can do, to figure out how many calories you need. And like I said, I'm not huge on calories in, calories out because it's more about the quality calories, but this is for a starting point, okay? This is developed based on all kinds of formulations and physiology and all these things, but even so, it's not going to be 100% accurate for everybody because there's other things that could be at play, and we're not in a laboratory, right? So let's just go with it for now, and you can adjust. So you could, to determine how many calories you need, you could track food for 2 to 4 weeks. Every little morsel you put in your body, you would average out what your calories are, and if your weight stayed the same, then you know that that's sort of your maintenance calories. Okay, so when you want to, like down here is where I'm looking right now for fat, if you want to lose fat, you would take your current weight. If you wanted to, I'm sorry, if you wanted to be, say you're 180, but you want to be 150, okay, your ideal lean body weight, to get to that lean body weight, you would multiply by 12 and by 13. So before I just want to see something quick. Okay, I have an example, but so if you are 180 and want to be 150, you would multiply 150 times 12 and then 150 times 13. That would give you your calorie range that you should shoot for. So, this maintain current weight composition, that's just kind of where most men and women fall in. Generally speaking, there could be some outliers if people are really like a tiny person or a really tall, like a very tall female. It might, go past the 2,400 calories, and then men, same thing. So that's just kind of average. But if you want to lose fat, you want to multiply your ideal lean body weight times 12 and 13. If you want to maintain where you're at, multiply your current weight by 15 to 16 and 16. And if you want to gain weight, you take your current body weight, multiply it by 18 and 19. Okay. I do that with a lot of teenage boys that just cannot lose or cannot gain weight. And sometimes we need to go higher than that. Okay, so let's look at this person who is currently 140 pounds, perimenopausal. So we got some hormonal fluctuations going on there. That's why we have to go by a range. And they want to be 125 pounds. Okay, so to find out the maintenance calories, here's that 140 times 15 is that 2,100 calories. Or like I said, you can track for 2 to 4 weeks, but I feel like I wouldn't have the patience to do that. So maybe other people are in that same thought process. And then you can look at just saying, okay, if I want to, if that's my maintenance calories, if I want to lose weight, then I'm going to take 20% of that, take 20% off of that. And then my lost calories is 1,680 right here. Sorry, I do not know what's happening with that. Okay, so does that make sense to everybody? If you are 140 and you want to get to 125, you just find out your maintenance calories and then take 20% off of that. That's to figure out your calories for loss. Okay, perfect. Or we can calculate it differently. We can use that for here. Okay, so let's see if you are 125, and then you multiply by 12 and 13. we'll see how close we are here. So at 125 times 12 to lose to get to 125 would be 1625 calories. And then 125 times 13. Sorry, I did it the other way backwards. So 1500 to 1625 calories. So it's you see that it's not exactly accurate if you do sort of the estimation up here versus this formulation. So we just know that it's not perfection, right? We just know that it's not perfection, but it's a place to land. It's a place to start. So does anybody have any questions about that? I just want to make sure everybody understands. I mean, I know you can do math. I'm not saying you don't know how to do the math, but just that you know where the numbers are coming from.
It does seem like it's quite a bit different though, because my goal weight is 155.
Okay.
So that's 1800 to 1950 if you do the 12 and the 13.
Yep. Yeah. And that's probably more calories than you would think you should have, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like we have this idea, and I think some of it is I've heard so many medical providers tell people over the years, myself included, you don't need to eat any more than 1200 calories a day. Like that's all you need. It's like, yeah, to survive, like just to keep you, above ground basically is you need that many calories, but to actually fuel your body, build the muscle and recomp your body, you might need more. So what I would say, Janelle, I think that was Janelle that said that. What I would say to you is this: if you, I don't know, if you do the calories, where did you say your thought process of calories was supposed to be at?
Oh, I always kind of shoot for 1700. That's
Okay, and
kind of
then
my thing. So I'm like 100 it's 100 less. It's not that much less,
right.
but it just seemed like when I did the math and I went, "Oh, really? 1950? That seems like really
Yeah, to go
high."
up to that. So that's what I would say to people is because we don't live in a vacuum, you might maybe for a week you're fighting a cold. You probably need a little bit more fuel or the whole adage about starving a cold. Maybe you don't want to eat as much. So I think that just goes to show that metabolic fluctuation is normal. And I think it is, maybe it's just, if nothing else, it's kind of giving you a little bit of reprieve of I have to be at 1700 calories, and if I'm too high, then I've screwed up, and that's why I'm not making progress, all that kind of stuff. I would just say to allow for fluctuation, even if it's just you just let it fluctuate from day to day, or if you purposely do that. Maybe on weekends, you go up to that 1900, 2000 calories or something like that. And then maybe during the week, you're down more at that 1700, maybe you can just kind of see how your body responds and then adjust accordingly. So hopefully that makes sense and gives people a little bit of a break on figuring out what they need to do. So then from there, I'm going to show you how to figure out your macros. Oh my gosh. I gotta move my stuff from my desk here so I can type. All right. So remember I said that we need a minimum of 100 grams protein and then ideal lean body weight. Okay, Janelle, I'm just going to use the number you gave me. You said your ideal lean body weight is 155
Yeah,
pounds.
it's 155.
Okay, so I'm just going to use 150 grams just because of it's easier math or whatever. So then we would want to say how much protein, how many calories of protein is that? So we're kind of going to figure out our macros. So we know that protein is 5 calories per gram. Okay, or I'm sorry, 4 calories per gram. All right, so 4 calories times 150 grams equals 600 calories. Okay, so if you were tracking your foods here and there, you would try to shoot for 150 grams, and that would be about 600 calories. And what did we say? You said 18 to 1950 was your calorie range?
Yes, 18 to 1950.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to use the 1800 again just to look at the one thing because we're going to, again, there's ranges to go by. Okay, so then you would say if you have 1800 calories to work with and 600 of them are protein, that means you have 1200 calories left to put in with fat and for carbohydrates. Okay, so again, prioritize that 150 grams protein. Ideally, it's divided by 3, maybe even 4, even if it's a smaller, like a snack that's smaller amount of protein. But try to get at least that 35 to 50 grams protein at each meal. That's what I would recommend using these numbers. Okay, so then we go to carbohydrates. We want to add those next. And let's say that we could be better with our metabolic stability. Let's say we have high blood pressure, or we have higher blood sugar, or our triglycerides, or all 3. Okay. So let's just say we're going to put our our carbohydrates at 100 grams per day. If you are really struggling with those things, you might want to do 90 per day. Okay. So carbohydrates, I'm just going to abbreviate it that way, is also 4 calories per gram times 100 grams equals 400 calories. Okay, so far we have 1,000 calories out of the 1,800 calories that we have for that day. Okay, now we need to figure out our fat. Fat number has double, so we're going to work backwards on this. Fat is 9 calories per gram. And we have 800 calories left. So 800 calories divided by 9. So 800 calories remaining. Everybody understands how I got that, right? So that would give you 89 grams of fat that you would want to eat. Okay. So I'll just kind of put in summary here. Okay. So we would want protein, 150 grams, 600 calories. Carbohydrates, 100 grams, 400 calories. And then fat, 89 grams, 800 calories. So that would be the breakdown for Janelle using those parameters. So what I would say is if you're not at that 150 grams of protein yet, that's priority 1. Like if you're not at the 100 grams, for sure, that's priority 1. Then build up to getting closer to that 150. Okay. Then you would want to, depending on how your body's responding to things, then I would adjust carbohydrates. Either you adjust down or you adjust up. So just same with the calorie thing, which obviously if you just one macro, then the calories kind of have to balance each other out if you're going to try to get to that 1,800 calories. So you can fluctuate the carbohydrates up and down. I would probably leave fat the same. You could try to decrease fat here and there. If you wanted to go super duper low carb for, say 5 days or something, you could increase the fat, maintain the protein, swap that out, and it just kind of adjust your body, your nutrient intake for your body along the way based on your symptoms. But I would say that you would work to get to whatever protein you get, what you need, and then that's becomes like a non-negotiable that you're always getting that. It takes time, but it's doable. And then I just caution you to not use junky protein substitutes like protein bars and shakes. I'm a fan of shakes, of certain shakes, but we don't want to just use, I don't know, don't go to the big box stores and buy liquid protein shakes. Those are just not that good of quality. If you're using them on a regular basis, don't do that. That's the caveat. If you're doing that all the time, every single day, I would not recommend that. That's not going to be supportive of everything else. There's so much garbage in so many of those things. But use them as a crutch, as a tool, as a way to get you to the 150 grams of protein, fine. But try not to rely on those types of things every single day. I mean, I sell protein bars and I tell people I like use them, like put them in your purse, in your car so that you're not starving and, decide you want to pull over to a fast food restaurant or something, but don't rely on them solely, I guess is what I'm saying with that. Does anybody else want me to work through the macros for you specifically?
I think it makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Um, Anybody else? Julie, do you want me to run through anything for you? Okay. Well, does anybody have any questions about this or anything else you want any thoughts on or questions answered?
No, this has been really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad. It's simple. It really is simple, but if you ever in your life did the formula in your head about, the calories in, calories out thing, and you probably have heard somewhere that 3,500 calories equals 1 pound of fat. And then all you need to do is reduce your calories every week by 3,500 calories, you lose a pound a week. I don't know who that math has ever worked out for. I mean, I think I know one person maybe over time. And that's like if their hormones are balanced, if their thyroid is in check, if they just whatever, all the genetics are at play, then that formula might work. But this is why we have to look at sort of our non-negotiables, like the protein, working towards that, and then optimize our nutrition around that, but adjust as needed. Adjust as your body changes, adjust as, depending on how you feel. And that's part of the problem. People have gotten so far away from just listening to themselves, and we listen to everybody else, and it's like we don't critically think, like, what is our body asking for? And so just think about that as you go through this, using these as tools, but don't worry about adjusting to your needs. That's kind of the bigger takeaway I want you to get from this. So, all right. If there's nothing else, I guess that is it. Yeah, you're welcome, Tracy. Thanks for being here, you guys.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.